Not live from right here, it's Cheaper Pop Culture! I always thought it was a bit odd the way they worded that, you know? Live from New York, it's Saturday night. It just sounds weird. I mean, I get it, just doesn't sound right. Almost Yoda-like. Whatever, I never really liked SNL anyway. I mean, their Jeopardy skits are good, but I was always more of a in living color guy myself. Anyway, today's episode is... Saturday Night Live has been on the air since, well, forever. And during that time, pro wrestling has seeped into the show on more than one occasion. To be honest, it's a surprisingly low amount considering how many episodes of SNL there are. The ratio really doesn't make sense. I mean, I get it, wrestling has a stigma, but, I mean, come on! Buck Henry has hosted 10 times, and I have no idea who Buck Henry is. He might be great, I'm not saying he's bad, I'm just saying, 10 times? And Chris Jericho, The New Day, or CM Punk couldn't get there one time? Not one time? Where was that on your list of complaints, Punk? Maybe it's time you gave NBC a piece of your mind. But anyway, even though it may be limited, wrestling has intersected with the weekly sketch comedy show from time to time. And we're here to talk about just some of those times, starting now! Let's begin with the big one. March 30th, 1985 would be the last day of the old era of wrestling, because the following day, Sunday, would be the very first WrestleMania. But on that Saturday, not even a full day before the big event, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T would host Saturday Night Live. Now, you might think that this was all part of genius marketing by Vince McMahon, but in reality, it was more just like a happy little accident, because the intended host of the show was comedian Steve Landesberg of Barney Miller fame, but he was unable to do so because he became ill, and unfortunately for the show, most of the episode was formulated around him. But in a pinch, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T jumped in. Now, their appearances in the episode were few due to the fact that the show was actually written for someone else. And what material they did have was created last minute, and it showed, because this was in no way, shape, or form a stellar showing. But considering the circumstances, it's understandable. Going even further back, all the way to season 1 of Saturday Night Live, the show featured a sketch called All Pro Wrestling. Now, this was about a tag team called The Bees, as played by Peter Boyle and John Belushi, going against their rivals, The Wasps, and no, not the kind that you're thinking of. They were played by Gilda Radner and Chevy Chase. The Rock first hosted Saturday Night Live on March 18th, 2000. I think it was a Saturday. Also, probably after the sun went down. In New York. I'm not really sure when they taped it. Anyway, this was seen as a very big deal for the WWF. WCW had just brought on Vince Russo, marking the end of days for the company. But for Vince McMahon's house, things could not be looking better. Not only were they dominating the Monday Night Wars, but the WWF brand was once again part of mainstream pop culture. Something that it hadn't been in a really long time. And the biggest sign of this, in the eyes of many, was that The Rock was going to be the host of SNL. In his first appearance, Dwayne appeared alongside other wrestlers like Triple H, The Big Show, and Vinnie Mac himself. Following his debut, The Rock would continue on to join the illustrious Five Timers Club, being one of only a select few to host the show 5 times, 5 times, 5 times. Other 2 5 times. And on his 5th outing, other members of the 5 Mile High Club, Alec Baldwin and Tom Hanks, came out to welcome him into this illustrious fraternity of fivers. Throughout his appearances, The Rock has had memorable skits, such as playing a live-action badass rebooted Bambi, Coco Watchout in a mock WWE promo, and of course, The Rock Obama. Not to mention many others. Now, there are some people that will note that The Rock was the perfect wrestler who just came along at the right time to host SNL. But interestingly enough, there are those who will say that doing the show might have been the exact moment that would ultimately cause him to leave professional wrestling, as it would show the world just how entertaining the Great One could be, thus giving him his acting career. Well, there you have it. Just a few examples of pro wrestling and Saturday Night Live. Yeah, were you expecting it to be better? Well, that's how I feel every single time I've watched SNL. Truth be told, the only time I ever see something from there anymore is when someone tells me, oh, you have to see this SNL skit. Then I Google a clip of it and I just watch that. And that rarely ever happens to begin with, so. Anyway, bye.